What's better than one Optimus Prime? It's not really a pop quiz, it's an easy answer. The answer is two Optimus Primes, but neither of these are particularly the reason that I bought the Transformers The Last Night Mission to Cybertron Toys R Us exclusive 2-pack of these guys. Stick around and I'll explain everything in the latest GotBot True review. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, share, and of course I'm going to say hit that subscribe button. Stick around, have a bit of fun with us, show some support, show a bit of love, have your say. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, and me everywhere. And we have two Optimus Primes here. Now, this one is really a reuse of a mold that's been used a few times. It was the first attempt at making a more streamlined Optimus, and I think it worked out nicely. He's a rather tall deluxe, and he scales all right with the Voyager class Megatron of the same era. We'll talk about that a little bit later. It's a pretty good figure. Of course, the right arm, for some reason, does like to pop off, but there's something a little strange about that. Then we have this guy, and this guy is a use of the Protoform Optimus Prime. I didn't get him for Optimus Prime, however. You see, a long time ago he was repurposed as somebody else. So we actually have three reasons why I got these guys. Instead of touching on them now, I think I'll wait and let you know what those three reasons are at the end. So without any further ado, let's get over to the table and take a closer look at these guys. Okay, so here we are with the Transformers The Last Night Mission to Cybertron Toys R Us exclusive 2-pack of deluxe class Optimus Primes, or Optimus Prime I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what the plural form of Optimus Prime is, but you get the idea. We have an Earth mode, we have his Protoform Cybertronian mode. Now, before we get into the two figures, let's take a look at a couple of things first. And here we have the box. It's a box, all right, and it says Optimus Prime, and we have Cybertronian Optimus Prime over here. This is nice artwork on this side. It's a premiere edition. We have some Cybertronian writing over here, and on the back, and I guess on this side, we actually have some nice artwork that wraps around. I think if you get all of the collector cards that come with the Mission to Cybertron set, you get the artwork here basically that's on the side that wraps around to the back. We have the product shot here and here. It is what it is. A little bit of a bio write-up, nothing special. And then we have this collector card, and it's on nice cardstock, I guess. It's all right. I don't see the point of it. I don't know what that Cybertronian says. Maybe you can scan it or something. Part of an image here on the back. We have a second one here that's like the same sort of thing. An image on the back. I don't know what they say. Autobots are cool. Cybertron forever. Don't eat cabbage. I don't know what the Cybertronian hieroglyphics or cyboglyphics say. I don't really care about these. These are not the reason that I bought this set. We have some respectable instructions. You basically have line work for the figures, and what you need to move is highlighted in red. You see the Earth mode Optimus here, and if you open it up, you can see the Cybertronian Optimus here, and you can kind of see the red over here, an example of what I was talking about. Maybe on the back too? Yeah, on the back you can see the parts that you move in red. And now we have part one of this set. It's an Optimus. It's a deluxe Optimus, but he came out in 2011, and at the time he could scale decently well with the Voyager Megatron that was released. 2011, I guess that would have been Dark of the Moon era. It was certainly the MechTech accessories era, and we'll see that in a second. It was released again as, I think, Silver Knight Optimus during Age of Extinction. It came in this weird 2-pack with Fall of Cybertron Grimlock repainted in G1 colors, if I'm not mistaken. It was the strangest exclusive. But again, this mold came out there. It's kind of a large deluxe. I mean, you know, here he is with Titan's Return, Slug Slinger. You know, he's a fair size bigger. I looked at Slug Slinger in episode 327. Here he is with something a little more modern, that being the Power of the Primes, Deluxe Class Jazz, who I looked at in episode 342. Again, you can see he's larger than that. This was like the first attempt at making a sleek looking Optimus instead of being overly boxy and burly. And I think it, for the most part, turned out quite well. Now we're going to look at his mech tech weapon first, and then we'll kind of get into the details of this dude. So we have this thing, and it's cast in a translucent plastic. There's a section right here that was able to clip under the arm of Optimus with the original mold. It can't do it here because it doesn't have the clip. If you pull back on this, you get an axe come out, reminiscent of his G1 axe, I suppose. It's a nice feature. It's too bad it can't stay out without having that button depressed. With this version, Optimus can either hold it in his hand or he can use the port on the side of his forearm. If you want to keep his hand clear, you can do that with it as well if that's what you want to do. I'm not particularly sure why you would, but you can. Paint apps. This is movie Optimus Prime, there's no doubt. Though it's kind of bland. We have a lot of unpainted gray on the arms and the feet. It'd be nice if the blue on his legs was broken up a little bit more. I feel like there's a lot more blue here than there really should be for the character. It's not that it looks bad, it doesn't. It's not that it doesn't look accurate. It does. It's just, it's not quite enough of it, in my opinion. But it does make for kind of great fodder for customizers. At least customizers that really want a nice movie Optimus. And this is a nice, sleek version of him, to be honest with you. As a representation of the character, I'd say it's about an 8. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's just missing some paint apps. It's about an 8. You're not going to mistake who or what it is. Articulation. Well, we're starting out pretty good with an 8. Let's look at the articulation. We have a head that can go left and right, a little up, a little down. It's more of a wiggle. These shoulder pad pieces can move up and down on a hinge. The arms go all the way around. We have a bicep swivel. We have a extremely deep elbow bend, which I totally dig. Nothing at the wrist. The arms can only go out to the side, however, about that far. It's okay, but I feel like the cut could have been up a little bit more. Maybe if you push it a bit, but I don't know if I would. The legs can go about that far out to the side, not too bad. We can go way to the front, even up higher than that, way to the front. And you'll notice right now, before I go on, that we have his backpack just hanging out, just dangling there. That's the way it comes in package. It's not the way he's supposed to be. So it's mistransformed. Really, this should be flipped around, and then the whole thing should be folded up onto his back, which is a little bit of a pain to do. By the way, he does have a waist swivel. I'll point this out now. If you have the backpack kept down, he does have a waist swivel, but as soon as you do the transformation correctly and bring that up and onto his back, he really kind of has the waist swivel largely hindered. He can wiggle, but that's about it. Still, what you do gain is leg back to there if that's what you want. You have thigh rotation. You have a bit over 90 degrees at the knee. We have toe tilt, really because of transformation, but it's there. And because of the way the legs sort of combiner wars themselves, we have a little gray tab in here, and if you unhinge that, which can be a slight pain, you can get out to the side like that if you want it. I'm not particularly sure why you would, but it's, you know, you can. It's all up to you, man. So that's what we have. Does he stand well? He stands all right once you find his balance point. Now I do want to point something out. I read that the right arm on a lot of these likes to just pop off. And indeed, this one is no exception. You start to rotate the arm around and it just literally pops right off the ball joint. Here's what is, however, strange. You can, for example, put his accessory in his hand, and you can put this back on over the ball joint, no problem, and bring it up, and it holds the weight of the, you know, accessory, no problem. It's really strange. I think that it has something to do with the actual molding of the ball peg. I think that it was off by just a micrometer or two, and that totally sort of... Ooh, poor Optimus. Totally sort of affected things. Still, that's what we have for his articulation. It's all right. It's pretty good. I think it would have been better served had this deluxe class figure been upsized to a Voyager. I think things would have been sturdier, especially for the mold reuses that this guy has had. Nevertheless, because it is a deluxe class size, that's how we need to grade it. I'm going to say the articulation overall is about an 8, even with that arm the way it is, because it's not a big deal. If you want to display it, it's just fine. If you want to play with it, you might want to thicken up that ball joint. And it's not a big deal to do it. Put on some floor polish or whatever thickening agent you choose to use. I would use the floor polish, and I'm sure it will be just fine after that. So, whew. So far we have, say, an 8 and an 8. The guy's getting an 8. It's a pretty good Optimus. It's a nice sleek look for him too. I totally dig that. Now we're going to look at the dude's transformation next. And you'll notice that I took his MechTech accessory away. We'll see how that incorporates in just a little bit. Alright. We're going to start with the bottom first, just because it's kind of the easiest place to begin. We turn the feet to the side and to the side. And before we can move anything, we need to open out this red piece, and if I can do it, this red piece, and it gives us our 2 rear tires. I'll say this, fresh out of package, these are extremely tight. They're not so bad now. Flip the feet and ankles all the way down. That's excellent. Now, we're going to collapse his legs, and when we do that, we remove the, I guess, gray section from in here. We kind of combiner wars it down, and then on the inside of the fuel tank, there's a little blue tab that goes into this rectangular slot on the leg. If you don't put that tab in, the legs don't go in enough for them to peg together. So you bring that up, bring that in, and hopefully this tabs in nicely. There. That's one side in. And now on the other side, we angle out that gray piece, we hinge the leg up, bring that gray piece into the leg, and tab it in. Now that you have that done, there's a series of tabs and ports on the legs, and we can tab them together. They're probably not going to stay together through the entire transformation, but we'll do it for now. And that's kind of what we have right there. Looks good so far. By the way, you'll notice that we have a little rectangular slot here and a little rectangular slot over here. That's where sections of the arms will tab in to hold this guy together, but we won't worry about that yet because we're not quite there. We come to the back and we angle down his backpack, and we just sort of leave that at the moment. We want to take, we'll say this arm, since it's the one that doesn't fall off, and bring it up so that we can turn the entire body around. Here's one thing about this version of the mold that I absolutely love. His chest, the windows on his chest actually become the windows of the truck. That's great. So, where do we go next? We untab that right there, and really the side mirror is what tabs into a little rectangular slot there, and we untab that. We push the head down and bring the chest pieces together until they tab together, and they will. You might have to fiddle with it a little bit. And there you go. They're tabbed together up here, and you know that they will tab together when, and I'll come back here and show this, the little silver piece here and the little silver piece here that are part of the smokestacks. They have rectangular slots in them that go on over, that push up over little rectangular pegs that are on the main body. You'll see it, no problem. Okay, so now we need to deal with these arms and the shoulders. Well, this is where things get a little bit challenging with this guy because of that ball joint issue. So you bring up the arm quite simply by bending it at the elbow. And you do the same thing here, you bring it up bent at the elbow. You bring the shoulder pad down over it and the shoulder pad down over it. You're going to bring these together and you have a little blue tab here and a little blue tab here. They go into a rectangular slot way up right there. So you bring those in. And they should tab into that slot and tab into each other. And I just lost that arm. That happens with this, unfortunately. Alright, so we got the arm back on. We got these two pieces tabbed into each other and into the front of the cab to make the sleeper section. These two arm pieces, they also, the little blue pieces, they tab into one another as well. And hold things pretty solid along the back, and you'll notice you have a gray rectangular tab here and here. Well, those sections that I mentioned earlier on the legs will go over these two little gray tabs. So you start to bend them back at the waist. Now there's actually a joint there, so you don't just bend the legs up, you bend the entire waist section up. And then you will tab those shoulder pieces down into it. And this is what we have now. All that's left to do is to take the backpack and slide it into place. Push it back, and we have a couple of little blue tabs. They go into position as well. And there, put that in. And boom, there you go. Optimus in his truck mode. And here he is as inconspicuous as ever, because you're never going to notice this up top. Or the fact that it can still do this. I don't know. I think it would have been nicer had we been able to put the blaster thing back here. That's just me. In this mode, the paint apps again are all right. Like, we do have the flame deco on the hood and the doors, but we're missing it over the wheel wells. We're subjected to just kind of a solid red back here, which is all right, but I feel like there should be flames back here. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Again, it feels like a lot of blue. The steps aren't colored here. I feel like they probably should have been silver, but I do like the fact that we got the clear plastic for the windows. That's kind of cool. It's not a bad figure by any stretch of the imagination. I just feel like compared to earlier releases of the mold, the paint apps are somewhat simplified here. Though he does have an Autobot symbol. Kind of. I'm going to show that to you up close so you can see what I mean. Now look at that tampograph. There's something not right there. That's not right. Over on the top corner there's something not right about this. I don't know if the tampo was squished or if it's supposed to be battle damage and that's deliberate, or if it's widespread or just this copy or what. But that Autobot symbol, there's something fishy about that thing for sure. Nevertheless, is this a good Optimus Prime? Yeah, it is. I think it's a little bit small. Like I said, I would have loved to have seen this particular mold as a Voyager. The transformation isn't bad, but I feel like it is a little more delicate because this guy is deluxe size. So certain tabs are kind of smaller than I'd like for them to be and whatnot. But it's a good figure. The transformation overall is about an 8. This is overall is about an 8 for an Optimus. But I really believe that had it been the size of a Voyager, I think some of the issues, like that ball peg issue, and some of the delicate tabbing would not have been things to be concerned about at all. If this deluxe incarnation is an 8, I think that had we had one Voyager size, it easily could have been a 9.5. But this is what we got, and it's still pretty good. If you are down for a movie Optimus, this is a decent one to have, and it got excellent sharp lines in truck mode. I love the way that he looks there. The accessory storage could be better, but hey, sometimes we live with what we get. But he's not the only one we have to look at. Oh no, something far more interesting. Now I know what you're thinking, that's Protoform Optimus Prime. It's supposed to be reminiscent of what he and the other Autobots looked like when they entered Earth's atmosphere in the original 2007 movie. That's not that interesting. But see, there's more to this guy than meets the eye. See what I did there? See what I did there? I don't want him as a version of Optimus. Not interested. No. I want him as someone else. You see, this mold, rather the 2007 original release of it, but hey, I'll use this one in the same manner. This mold has kind of been retconned. Thanks to Tales of the Fallen, number 4, this body mold was used to represent Prima, the first bearer of the Matrix of Leadership. And for those not in the know, Prima was part of, well, depends on what you believe, the movie has the Dynasty of Primes, and I think there's 7 in that. And then there's the multiverse group of 13. And, of course, there is the version that's probably most widely known, most widely recognized. And that would be the Covenant of Primus, a line continuity version of the 13 Primes. Now, there could be debate about this all the time. Some might say, hey, Prime is not the first bearer of the Matrix. It was a dude named Primion, or Promion, who is either connected to this guy or existed before Cybertron and even before Primus. I'm not sure how that works, but hey, you can figure it out. And some would say, hey, the 13 Prime should include Logos Prime and Epistemus, or Epistemus? I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Autonomous, Maximus, and Solomus. But for me, I would say that my version, at least, of the 13 are those from the Covenant of Primus book. I think that's kind of the most official rendition of them. And that consists of this guy, Prima, who was the first Transformer created by Primus, who is basically the god of the Transformers for those not in the know. It also includes Vector Prime, Alpha Trion, Solus Prime, Micronus, Alchemist, Nexus, Onyx, Amalgamus, Quintus, Liege Maximo, Megatronus, and the mysterious 13th Prime, who was Optimus, who forgot he was a Prime. Another story for another day! Nevertheless, I wondered if there was an official toy version of Prima, and there really wasn't. But if you look at the artwork representing that character in the Covenant of Primus, and then you look at this model for the figure, it's close. Really, really close. Now, if you are a hardcore fan of the G1 cartoon, there was a version there called Powerful Robot that later on became, apparently, Primus. And it was sort of a robot that was kind of a mix of Cyclonus's body type and Slugslinger's. You could probably do some sort of a custom job between these two guys, but I've seen the picture of what's deemed to be Primus from that era, and my first thought was that Slugslinger without his wings. I wanted something unique. And since I kind of go by the 13 as depicted in the book, The Covenant of Primus, I tend to go by that artwork. And based on that artwork, this is pretty spot on. So, as a representation of Optimus Prime, the guy's maybe a 2. I mean, you can tell that he has like the window chest, and it's kind of heroic looking. But as a version of Prima, the guy's like easily a 9. It's so close. By the way, you probably noticed that there are these mysterious, again, cyberglyphics on his chest. Mysteriously, they're the same cyberglyphics that appear in the flame decal on the door of this Optimus that also comes in that pack. What could they possibly say? It says Prime. It's not that exciting. If you translate it, it says Prime. As does the red on the back here. It says Prime. He can hold his accessory fine, this thing. We're going to look at this closely before looking at the figure. I guess it's a blaster. And this is supposed to be the blast effect coming from it. You can take that out. Because if you turn it around and flip it upside down, it's also going to be the tail end of the kind of rock meteor outload coming into the atmosphere. This is the blaster. It's a bit strange. This piece also opens up so it can get kind of large, but when it's in his hand, if this piece is out, the elbow can't bend. So a lot of times I just leave that in. You can also fold up this piece, and when you do so, you have this little light gray kind of rectangular corner. That is what will allow it to go stored in vehicle mode loosely. Luckily, everything else wraps around it. We'll see that in just a little bit. It's an alright blaster, I guess. I suppose. It's weird, but so is this iteration of the character. And speaking of this weird iteration of the character, here he is again. How does he sort of stack up? Well, again, here he is next to Power of the Primes, Jazz. You already saw him sort of next to Slug, Slinger, and Cyclonus, so that can give you an idea. He's kind of a tall, bulky deluxe class. He's a nice size. The articulation, well, remember, if we're looking at him as a version of Optimus, right now he's scoring like a 2. If we're looking at him as a version of Prima, the guy's like a 9. I think it's fantastic. The head can go left and right, wiggle up and down. The shoulders, they can go all the way around. They do get held up a little bit here and there, but they can go. They tend to get held up on backpack pieces, basically. There you go. So if you get the backpack piece out of the way, the shoulders go all the way around. These little flaps, they can move up and down for whatever reason. The arms can go all the way out to the side. I love how the, I guess, forearm pad goes up over the shoulder so as not to hinder it. We have a bicep swivel. We have a 90-degree at the elbow. We have a wrist swivel, which is fantastic. If you put the arms up, he doesn't really have a waist swivel, but he has a chest rotation. I think that's great. We have legs that can do splits out about that far. It's all right. They can go way forward, super high kicks, and back respectably far considering all of the backpack, because we have, we have a backpack, and then when you lift that up, you have another backpack. Who doesn't like a good backpack? We have a thigh swivel. Now, it's not a dedicated swivel on the thigh itself. We have a ball joint section here at the hip, and there's a rectangular slot in it. So the thigh piece is in that slot, but it allows full range of motion. We have a 90-degree at the knee, and we have feet that can tilt forward and back and to the side because they're on ball joints. Not much to the side, but a little bit. And here is, I think, the greatest thing with this guy. There is a ball peg. Either it goes from the waist up into the abdomen or from the abdomen down to the waist, but it gives the guy, for a deluxe class figure, an ab crunch. That's fantastic. I think that's great. So, that being the case, and generally, he stands quite well. You can get some dynamic poses with this guy for sure. In terms of articulation, whether we're looking at it as a version of Optimus Prime or the first Matrix bearer Prima, I'd say it's a solid 8.5. It's pretty great. Maybe even a 9. We'll say a 9. I'm in a good mood. We'll say a 9. So we have a 2 and a 9 if he's a version of Optimus. He's about a 5. We have a 9 and a 9 if he's a version of Prima. That's what I'm going with for sure. What about the transformation? By the way, before we get into the transformation, real quick here, when he's in the strange alt mode we're going to put this dude in, he balances great and rolls great. It's kind of a testament considering how weird this dude is going to look. So, where do we begin? Well, we take the arms up, and we take the arms up. And I'll do this now, because if I don't, I'm going to forget. We rotate this all the way around. So now, his chest is facing the other backpack, we'll say. We take the feet and put them down and point them in. Feet down, point them in. And we can peg the legs together. We have a peg here and a slot, and a peg over here and a slot. I don't find, however, that the legs like to particularly stay pegged together that well. But nevertheless, there you go. They're together at the moment anyway. Now that we have this done, we come up underneath the backpack, and there's a little gray section up here. You bring that back and you push the head down. It says to turn the head around, but I don't do it. Put that up. Next, we can take the little flap here on top and hinge it out and bring that, assuming you have the head back here far enough. I don't, for whatever reason. Why are you not going back there? Probably had it turned too much. There you go. That up, and then you bring this piece right down over. No problem at all. Take the shoulders, turn it forward, turn it forward. And now you're going to angle these arms back. There's a hinge in right here. So you take this and angle it back at the shoulder hinge. And bring that arm in. And you're going to do the same thing on the other side. But before we do that, really, we're going to want to deal with storing the accessory up underneath here. It is a nuisance. So, here we'll bring that one around. We'll bring them in close, and using that light gray piece, we have a little notch up here that we put this in. Not that it particularly likes to stay in that little notch. Now we can bring those arms in. They're not quite fitting there. I'm going to get this fitted correctly, because that blaster does not like to stay there, and then we'll go on from there. And here we are with everything kind of put back into position as it should be. We take this shoulder pad and bring it out, this shoulder pad and bring it out, and then we angle up the legs. As such, they don't need to be perfect yet. We have panels here on the side that come out. You'll notice that we have a rectangular section here that has a slot with this peg into to secure all of that along the sides. So bring that up and bring that up. Then we bring this piece in, and it should tab in. And over on this side, we bring this piece in, and again it should tab in. And then if you had the legs come apart on you like I did, you tab them back together. And in essence, boom, there you have the Cybertronian Protoform rock mode thing. Now, there's a little slot up right here, and that kind of flaming section, I guess, goes slotted up there by a little rectangular divot section here. So I'll do that and we'll take a closer look at this guy. And here we have him in his comet look. By the way, I forgot to mention that when you bring the legs up, when the feet peg together, you get a rectangular slot there. They go over a little peg back here. I don't know if I can show it. There's a little gray peg there. The feet, once the legs are tabbed together correctly, the feet form a slot that little tab can go into. And this is what you get in the end. It looks really weird when you look at it from the side, of course, as you would expect. But when you look at it kind of like this, as if he's, you know, coming into the atmosphere, like that's kind of a cool effect. Here's the nice thing, and here's why I think it works well as Prima instead of Optimus. This certainly doesn't look like any version of Optimus Prime that we know. The transformation is interesting and unique. I'm giving it a 9. I like it. Optimus was getting a 5. This is a 9. Overall, as a version of Optimus, maybe it's a 6. You know, maybe. But if you're not a fan, you're not going to know that this is Optimus. There's no doubt. But for Prima, again, the transformation is a 9. Overall, for a version of Prima, this mold is a solid 9. It's a great rendition of that character. Whether it's, you know, retconned, or whether you consider it to be unofficial or not, it's a great alternative to have a version of that character on your shelf. And the nice thing is, and here's the great thing that I was about to say, as a version of Prima, because Prima never transformed, as the first Transformer, they didn't know that they had the ability to convert really yet, didn't know about their T-cogs, he doesn't really need to change into anything. Prima never did. As far as we know, Prima never had an alt mode. And if Prima did have an alt mode, who knows? Maybe it was just this blob thing. I don't see any reason to not say that this is a great rendition of that character. And that is the reason that I picked up this set exclusively to have a version of Prima. And speaking of the original 13 Primes, those first 13 Transformers created by Primus, here's kind of what we have sort of officially-ish so far. We have the Fallen, of course, in the back. We have Alpha Trion right here, Optimus, or a version of him, over there. I think that this works great as Micronus, because he should be a Minicon, so Micronus should be little. I know he's in his Cloudburst decoy armor there. And now, I'm very happy to add a version of Prima. That gives me 5 of them. That's a start. That's a start. Hopefully, I'll be able to kind of add to this little family portrait over time. So here they both are again. Are either of these a necessity for your collection? Probably not, but as toys, looking at it arbitrarily as just toys, they're both pretty cool, but I would say that the strength of this set, at least for me personally, is actually the Protoform Optimus. But that's just me, and of course your tastes vary. And that's cool too. Either way you cut it, they're both pretty good figures, in my humble opinion. And here we are back again. Now, I have gone through both of these guys, and I think both of them are pretty good figures. They don't particularly fit the bill for me as Optimus Prime. This guy's slightly too small for my liking. As I stated a number of times, I like a Voyager for my faction leaders, and I think that this guy would have really benefited from being upsized a bit. It's not a bad figure at all. You just have to be okay with the size for what it is. As for the Protoform Optimus, well, we all know by now that I'm using him as Prima, one of the original 13 Primes. In fact, it was the first one and the first Matrix bearer, as I previously stated. And that's exactly one of the reasons why I got this set, because I wanted that version of Prima, and I think he looks great with his brethren, if you will. That's not the only reason. I said before that there are 3 reasons. The second is because here in Canada we don't have a lot of buying options, and with all of the upheaval that Toys R Us has undergone in recent months, and the unfortunate news as of late, they are a part of my, I can't even say my childhood, because we never had Toys R Us when I was a little kid. I used to see the commercials and I always wished that we did. And when we finally did get it, I was still young enough to have that sense of amazement, but not when I was 5 or 6 or 7 years old. I would like to support any company that I can that is trying to succeed. I mean, we all succeed when one succeeds. I've said that before, and it is very true now. And the third reason is because I got them on a deal. Do I think that this set was worth the full asking price? No, I don't. To be fair, I don't think really anything from the last night has been worth the full asking price. Maybe the Voyagers, because they were definitely the standout of the entire line. But for a reduced cost, on sale, are they worth a pickup? Yeah, I definitely think so. They're both fun, interesting molds. And why not add them to your collection? If you already have them, should you bother to replace them? No, they're certainly not worth that. But if you missed them the first time around, this is a great chance to kind of pick them up like I did. And I'm glad that I did. Anyway, thanks for giving me some of your very valuable time. Let me know what you think about these two dudes. And I very much look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit right here inside the videos.